were looking for a section of the river that we could adopt. And so there's a lot of activity on the river and a lot of people that take care of the mainstream and the North Branch, and we're going, that section above town needs some tender, loving care. So we started with doing such things as insect surveys, temperature monitoring. We actually did some fish shockings, and then gradually moved into the project. We got permission to put in a couple spawning riffles. And looking at the river, it really needed to be narrowed down and quickened and need more fish cover because of the dams that were there, it was pretty flat and wide. So we did that, and then we applied for a habitat improvement grant, which is money that Consumers Power has put aside and the DNR administers from the hydro dams, damage of the fish populations. So we applied for a grant for the Williams Tract, which would cover 2 years worth of work and put a crew on the river for 2 different years.
Well, now I think we can take a little jaunt down the stream and we can actually see, how do we put the nuts and bolts back into this machine? How can we take this biological desert and turn it into a productive trout fishery again? We're taking a rather broad approach to solving this problem here. It's just not a matter of simply putting fish cover into a stream, but we're looking at restoring biological or ecological function back to the stream. This section of water has been so impaired that it's requires a way bigger solution than just adding fish cover. Now this structure is solely fish cover, but other things we're going to attempt to do is manage sediment, basically the excess sand bed load here, and uncover the gravels by moving it or purging it over these gravel segments, providing areas where we can actually contain it and get it out of the system so it's no longer a problem. Sand moves continuously over these gravels. On average, it's like a grain of sand will move 1 mile in a period of 10 years. It seems like in this segment it moves a little quicker than that, but that's why 1 in 10 is an average. Then once we start uncovering gravels, then we have the potential to increase the biological productivity of the water to create more diverse insect communities, more diverse insect hatches. It also provides better substrates for the trout to reproduce in, which is the key in kickstarting a fish population back on the road to rebounding. And also to provide cover for these fish so the trout are able to survive year to year to get to older ages so they can reproduce. They're old enough to reproduce. So we need to provide them cover for spawning. One of the more vulnerable times that they have for natural mortalities is when they're in the fall on the spawning beds. They're out in the open, they're totally exposed, and they're not really paying attention to much else but to the task at hand. And blue herons and ospreys and eagles and otters just have a heyday and a feeding frenzy on them. So we're going to provide spawning cover. Then once those eggs hatch, we need to provide covers that are in different types of habitats and environments for juvenile fish. And then we also need to provide adult cover so they can go from year to year to year. A trophy trout just doesn't happen overnight. It takes 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 years to grow them that old and to grow that large. So we need to provide them places so they can hide, they can evade predation, avoid mortality. And those are the things that we're looking at to improve in this reach stream. Basically, this is a clean palette that we have to start working with, and it's a very, very interesting process. Here we've constructed a raft for adult cover. As you can see, the stream channel here, it's nice gravel now. The sand is being purged off of it, but there's just no resting areas, no hiding places for the adult fish to hang out. So we put in some of these rafts underwater. They're very subtle. They blend in really nicely. And they serve a very, very important function in this system. Here's another type of structure that we created, even though it's one of the more natural structures that we construct. It's basically just a tree drop. We cut a dead or diseased tree back in the riparian zone and felled it so the top would reach the water. It provides excellent cover if it's in the right place. These do collect sediments, so they're a tool for collecting sand or organic matter. So you have to be careful where you place them. You don't want to place them on the head of a gravel run because you will mess that gravel run up and actually create a problem instead of solving one. Here we have a shoreline that's pretty much organic and sand to start with. There's not a lot of gravel potential here, but it will collect organics down there and sand in the middle. The value with trout in this structure is it provides excellent juvenile cover in along the stream bank margin, and out on the tips it provides a good resting place for adult fish to hang out and a good feeding zone. So these are really neat structures if they're put into the right place. So they have to be evaluated. Each stream section has to be evaluated to ensure that you're not going to mess something up by dropping one of these in the wrong place. This is probably one of the key reaches of this whole section of stream. This is an outside bend, and it has a ridge of gravel that hops up at the tail end of it. This is probably one of the most important habitats that we have in this whole section. And we decided to place a large natural woody complex on the outside for fish cover. It also serves the purpose to narrow the stream channel down and improve velocities over these gravels. That ensures that the sand moves through here, doesn't collect, doesn't bury it in, and that we will have successful trout spawning. Also, when the trout come in here to spawn, they have cover that they can duck into when a predator comes around. So this 100 feet of stream here is just the key place to make sure that everything comes together correctly. The woody debris provides cover. It also narrows the stream channel down, increases velocity, creates hydraulic pressure so the waters go down in through the gravel, percolate up. That ensures that the eggs are going to be oxygenated and that survival and hatch of them will be really high. I will be watching this piece of habitat restoration this fall because I guarantee that we will have trout reds on it. And the more trout reds we have in this area, the quicker we rebound this population. Here we are in a section of stream that is typical of many of Michigan's streams. Low to moderate gradient, it doesn't fall downhill very fast, and the stream channel is kind of overly wide. These sections or reaches typically pick up a lot of excess sand. You don't have enough stream energy or stream velocity to move the sand, so the sand collects here and buries up the critical gravels. What our task here was to create places where we narrow and pinch the stream channel down. And I'm just above the second one of a series of 3 big natural tree drops where we are basically narrowing the stream channel down so the velocity picks up, it carries the sand and moves it, and also these tree drops collect the excess sand in behind so it gets it out of the picture totally. We started this just a few months ago in late May, and already it's August and we're down to very, very good gravels already. And when we started out, this whole section was all sand. I'm rather amazed how quickly Mother Nature can heal things if we help her along a little bit. Another technique that we're incorporating into this process is the placement of what we call paralogs. It's a natural log, either something that's been old and in the river for quite a while, and repositioning it or placing it into the river so that it's parallel with the current, where the current can flow along with it. A few of the logs we come across are perpendicular to the stream current. In other words, they go right across the stream. And in almost all situations, they collect a big sand delta downstream of the log that covers gravels with that excess sand. We're repositioning these so they're parallel, and as you can see, this one, it positions up off the stream bottom just slightly, provides wonderful edge for trout, for resting area, for holding places for the trout to live. And as you can see, there is absolutely no sand collecting alongside of it. All the gravel habitats are maximized in this process. The log is either anchored in with a duck bill, an earth anchor, or a cedar post that's jetted in. And most people who will come along here will never even notice that this was placed this way. As with most of the structures, we're trying to keep things natural looking as possible so people don't have to feel like they're in a man-made environment. Now for a little lesson in Fish Biology 101. This is kind of where the on-the-ground work started. This is one of the potential spawning areas in the realm of fisheries science. In order to restore a fish population in the quickest manner, you need to restore reproduction. This was a little higher gradient reach of the stream. Even though the sand was covering gravel, there was still little outcroppings of gravel here and there. So we decided that this would be a perfect place to construct an artificial spawning riffle. Mason Griffith chapter, Trout Unlimited, purchased a truckload of washed gravel. We hauled it in here, and with the equipment and a volunteer weekend, we got a barge in here. We hauled all this gravel and placed it in 3 veins along this reach. We also put in some brush structures alongside for cover and also to keep velocity focused over that so the sands wouldn't collect around it. This was placed in 2 years ago, and last fall when I floated through this section, we had brown trout spawning right where I was standing, so it was a success. And we hope as the fish spawn more and more, we'll get a larger spawning population on these 3 veins. And then the reproduction here should repopulate this whole reach. Look at this. This was all sand. See how that was over there? Yeah. That's how this whole channel was. I can't wait till we have a flood event to come through here. That's the energy that you need to do something significant.